In this video, Dad's going to talk about Beloit, Kansas. I wanted to fill in a few details. Uh, we were on our way from Olathe, Kansas to Longmont, Colorado. Okay, when we got into western Kansas, we hit a storm front. We were approaching some big thunderheads, and we experienced some violent wind. The airplane got shot up into the air about 1,000 feet, and then we dropped about 1,000 feet. And it seemed to me as a young lad that that wind was violent enough to tear the wings off the airplane. And I thought that was the only time flying with Dad that I thought it was all over. So anyway, as Dad came in to Beloit to land and made his approach, we were experiencing buffeting and bouncing around. And Lynn said, we're being tossed around like a leaf in a windstorm. Okay, so we landed on the ground, and then, as Dad says, we put the plane in the hangar to wait out the storm. Then later on in the story, he's talking about getting into Colorado, and how could you find the airport? Mom asked him, how could you find the airport, or how do you know where you are? The reason for that is because by this time it's dark. Since we had the delay waiting out the storm, we were getting into Colorado much later than we planned, and it was dark. So Dad is telling that he looked at the city lights of Denver and Boulder, etc., to find his way. So I hope this helps kind of explain the story a little bit. Okay, Dad, take it away. Here's the story.
We didn't get to Beloit though, did we?
Yeah, we landed at Beloit.
Oh, okay.
And got the airplane in the hangar, and then had lightning and thunder and wind and rain.
Just about 10 minutes after we landed.
Yeah, and about an hour or two later, why we took off and went rest of the way to Denver, or Longmont.
We didn't have we had a little bit of trouble finding the airport though, didn't we?
No,
not that
Longmont.
time.
You're thinking of
Virginia that we had trouble finding.
Cleo said, "How do you know where you are?" And I said, "Well, there's Denver over there, and there's Boulder, and there's Loveland, and over here is Greeley, and there's Longmont with the little green light going around under where we're going to land."
She said, "Oh, sorry, I asked."
Oh, no.
Well, when you're a pilot, I guess you should know these things.
In this next story, Dad's going to talk about our takeoff from Loveland, Colorado, where we had a hard time getting off the ground and clearing the building that was across the street. Why would we have a hard time getting off the ground? Well, Loveland is around 5,000 feet above sea level, and it was a warm day. When you have those two factors, it affects the air density, which Dad mentions in the story. Okay, I looked up air density in the encyclopedia, and I'd like to read to you a little bit about it. Air density is perhaps the single most important factor affecting airplane performance. It has a direct bearing on the lift generated by the wings. The efficiency of the propeller. A propeller is effectively an airfoil, and it behaves similarly to lift on wings. And the power output of the engine. Power output depends on oxygen intake. So all three of those things are reduced at high altitude on a warm day. And here are the results of that. The aircraft will accelerate more slowly down the runway as a result of reduced power production. The aircraft will need to achieve a higher true airspeed to attain the same lift. This implies both a longer roll down the runway before liftoff and a higher true airspeed, which must be maintained when airborne to avoid stalling. In the story, Dad talks about how he got a stall warning when he first tried to pull the plane off the ground. The aircraft will climb more slowly as a result of reduced power production and lift. So we had 6 people and all our luggage in the plane, and as Dad says in the story, if 5 of us and the luggage had driven to Longmont, which had a longer runway, we would have better chances of a successful takeoff than at Loveland with all of us in the plane and all the bags. So this is why there was a little bit of excitement in that takeoff from Loveland, Colorado. Okay, here's the story. Take it away, Dad.
Well, really used poor judgment in that takeoff. I thought before we even did it that I should take the airplane down the Long Mountain. You guys with all the baggage come down in the car, and then Longmont had a
Longer.
concrete runway. But Loveland was only 22 or 2,400 feet. And then the altitude was high, and I actually got a little off to one side and got going before I turned down the runway. But it was getting tight, and I pulled the thing off the ground almost too early, got a stall warning. I had to drop the nose a little bit for that and get the gear up. We only cleared the top of that. There used to be a building right across the road, and we were only about 20 feet over the top of that.
We didn't know it was so exciting.
Yeah.
But I was in the back seat oblivious, I think.
Yeah, well, we all were.
Yeah.
We took off in the snow.
Nobody knew
too.
it was kind of a tight situation.
Except for you.
I wonder if people on the ground said, does he always take off that way?
Well, I know Aunt Rowena was talking, she said, is it going to take off? Because we were a long way down the runway before it left the ground.
Wow.
And I've always felt that it was kind of dumb doing that. Since it turned out okay, well, it hasn't bothered me so much.
Probably had, I mean, we know you
If
had
we were
other
all
close
dead, it
ones.
wouldn't hurt me either.
No,
so.
that's true. We'd all be there together.